Hello, good morning. You are watching QTV this morning. My name is Ibrahima Balde, and we are back on another edition of QTV this morning here on QTV, where we talk about a lot of things happening, and look into the newspapers, and of course, bring different topics for us to delve into it, discuss it, elaborate, and we bring analysts. I mean, the likes of Mr. Mboj, Mr. Adedrame, Mr. Ka, Mar Nyang, the likes of Seth Mati Jau, MS Ba, to help us analyze. And on the platform, I am here with Mr. Adedrame. He will be co-hosting, and he will be guessing as well. Mr. Adi, good morning.
Good morning, Balde. And yes, as you rightly say, usually it's a full program and lots of topics to discuss both from home and abroad. And so as we go through the program, we try and touch on different things, sometimes sports, sometimes music, sometimes politics, civic education, etc., etc. So yeah, always,
absolutely.
Always full.
Yes. Always full. That's how, that is what it is. Afcon is still on, and we've seen a couple of interesting, games
and
yesterday.
One shock.
The afternoon game yesterday, I think
Namibia
was a very tough game.
Tunisia.
Yes, it was a tough game. I was expecting Tunisia is going to win Namibia, but unfortunately, Mr. Ade, I got it wrong.
I thought they were going to win against Namibia. Many people thought they would win against Namibia. And the reason is, when they spoke to the coach last week of Tunisia, he said, we've underperformed at Afcon in the past. This time we've come here to win it. Well, they haven't started off on the best footing by losing yesterday, and they deservedly lost. I think they were shocked by how skillful and spirited Namibia were. They played really well, and they deserved the victory. It wasn't a fluke. They really deserved it. Yeah.
Well, we've seen a lot of surprises on the tournament. We've seen teams that you never expected they would have gone this far. They are making it. Look at the teams like the team that played against Egypt.
Mozambique.
Yeah. Mozambique surprised everybody.
And they definitely surprised Egypt because Egypt needed a very late Mohamed Salah penalty to get a draw. Otherwise, that would have been a famous victory for Mozambique. And Cape Verde, of course, beat Ghana. So you're right, there have been some surprises already. And even some of the draws that have happened have been surprising ones. So it's shaping up to be a really good competition, and I'm looking forward to matches today. Morocco-Tanzania is the first match on today, and that should be an interesting one. Morocco are many people's tip to go all the way and win the competition, including mine.
Yeah, I listened to the commentator on the Cape Verde-Ghana game. The commentator was like, a population less than 500,000 people.
Well, it's just over 500,000.
According to what he,
according
to what he said,
yes,
he said, in fact, Cape Verdeans, they have more of their citizens living outside
than inside,
residing in the country.
Yes.
So on the program, we'll also be taking a look at the code. From there, we'll do the newspaper review. We'll be looking at some of the stories making headline. Then we'll talk to the United Nations Human Rights and the ministry, under the Ministry of Gender. They are ready to launch a second phase
of a project.
A project, protecting children.
Yes.
And
victims of human rights
abuses. So we'll also be talking to them. Then the click segment with Churchill Balde. Mr. Ade will start with the African code, or the code itself.
I think you have it.
News has wings while the ground has ears. News has wings while the ground has ears. That's what it says.
An interesting one. I read it and I didn't quite understand it. I don't know. I didn't understand the bit about the ground having ears. I guess, when there's news, I know news travels fast, but I didn't understand the bit about the ground has ears, and maybe you can help me with that one. I'm not clever enough to work that one out. Because
Well,
I didn't understand what he meant by the ground has ears.
well, I think it's talking about, I mean, for you to be careful of what you're saying or what you say. Sometimes you might not expect your message to get to a level where it will go. Maybe sometimes other informations that you want to be confidential can be spread quickly, and you know it can get so far that you were not even expecting it. So that's what it's telling you.
Yes.
So I think it's about information, transmitting information. That's
like,
what
for example, if I say to my camera guy, switch off your phone whilst we're on air.
Exactly.
You would hope that, you know, you do that. That news will travel to that camera person very, very quickly. And in terms of, you know, the ground having ears, you're right. I mean, they used to have this saying that the walls have ears. Like, be careful what you say. You don't know who's listening or who might pick up. So maybe it's a similar thing about the ground has ears. I'm not quite sure that I've kind of quite got my head around that bit of the quote.
I can remember during the former president Yahya Jammeh's days, I mean, they will tell you, be careful, the walls are listening. If you talk about him, they'll tell you everybody is listening. You never know.
I was somebody, not exactly a victim of it, but you know, I'm somebody who, if I'm among friends, I feel I should be able to speak freely. And yet in times past, when I used to come to the Gambia, I would say something that was slightly critical of the government of the day during, and somebody would say, be careful, you don't know who's listening. So yeah. That definitely was something that I used to encounter here. And I found it strange because I was used to being able to speak freely. And speak freely among friends. But, you know, you don't know whether some of those friends, in quotes, might be seeking political favors, and they might shop you and say, oh, this naughty Mr. Darami from Sierra Leone, he came here and he said this, he said that. So one always had to be aware, and it was kind of weird situation to be in when you had to choose and, you know, what you said. In public. It was really, really odd. But you're
absolutely.
Right.
Well, that is what it is. I mean, I think every citizen, you have the right to speak freely.
Express your...
You have to express your I
views.
mean, how you feel, your opinion. You have that right. Once that is seized from you, then it becomes another game. It's a different scenario then.
Yeah. I mean, there are some countries where... many countries you dare not speak certain things, and you certainly dare not speak certain things in public. And that's a thing. Is, for example, I heard that some Russian writers just last week were declared as enemy agents. And you know why they were declared enemy agents? Just for making the simple statement that they felt that the war in Ukraine was wrong. That was all they said. They didn't say attack Russia, attack Putin or anything. They just said we think the war is wrong, and now they've been declared enemy agents. So
it's good you mentioned Putin. I mean, why does they give Putin a name, one man against the world? That's how, when you mention it, many people will tell you one man against the world.
It might feel like that to him sometimes, but he has his friends. Just last week again, I was reading that some of these African countries who are sick and tired of the kind of colonial and the colonizers are now rushing to learn Russian. I'm not sure many countries around the world where you can speak Russian other than in Russia, but apparently the classes are absolutely inundated with people wanting to learn to speak Russian. So he's got some friends, and certainly some friends in certain parts of Africa, particularly those who are sick of the West. The West are always meddling in other people's business, and when Putin meddles, you know, it's a case of, you know, one man against the world, as you say. Obviously, a lot of it has to do with the invasion in Ukraine. And remarkably, this February will make 2 years since that invasion kicked off. And I don't think anybody thought it would last 2 years. They thought Russia would just steamroller Ukraine and it would all be over. But Ukraine are hanging in there, albeit with help from outside, from America, from Britain, from the European Union, and from others. But they're holding their own at the moment. It's an uneven fight. But you know, for those who know the story of David and Goliath, Goliath doesn't always win.
But Mr. Ade, I mean, let's talk about, it's good that you mentioned the Russia-Ukraine war. Many people don't understand What is the reason behind that war?
Well, if you go back some years ago, after the revolution which brought the communists into power in what was then Russia, it then became the Soviet Union. And when it became the Soviet Union, Russia expanded and took over lots and lots of countries. Now, a lot of those countries are now individual countries. You have Estonia, you have Slovenia, you have Georgia.
They were part of Russia.
They were part of the Soviet Union, but we still used to, in shorthand, just say Russia. But they were never Russia. They were part of the Soviet Union, but essentially, that was it. So after the fall of the Berlin Wall and all these other things, the Soviet Union started to shrink. But Russia is still the biggest country in size, by the way, in Europe. It's huge. And so what you had was that a lot of those people were Russians who had moved to these places. And so in many of these countries, a lot of people are majority Russian speakers. And people like Putin, they still long for the days of the Soviet Union when Russia had this huge empire. At the time, it was the biggest empire in the world because obviously the British Empire had shrunk. Lots of former British colonies had gotten independence. And so a lot of people like Putin and others, they long for the days when it was the Soviet Union and they controlled everything, including somewhere like Ukraine. So a few years ago, they took over an area called Crimea, which is a port on the Black Sea in Ukraine. It's in Ukraine. But Russia took it over and the world said and did nothing. They just said, oh, well, they've taken over this part of Ukraine, let them. And then Putin thought, oh, well, if I can take over that one, maybe I can take over the whole of Ukraine. And he found out that it wasn't going to be as easy as he thought.
It is.
And he still doesn't refer to it as a war. If you refer to it as a war in Russia, you can be prosecuted. You have to refer to it as a special military operation. Yes, otherwise you'll be in big trouble. So if you go to Russia, don't mention the war. Saying the special military operation.
Special military operation. Yes. It's not a war.
and so Putin has been in power for, it's getting close to 20 years now. He keeps getting re-elected. There's no term limits. He can be president for life if he wants, and probably will be.
And he keeps winning all the time.
Of course, well, especially as he keeps locking up his opponents. Of course, he keeps winning. So there's nobody credible against him, and that's been allowed to stand or contest.
Does he have opponents, like those that oppose him?
Yeah, they're all in jail.
On elections day?
Yes, they all, I would say 9 out of 10 of the last people who opposed him are now in jail.
I was like, who is going to be the opposition leader?
They are.
Putin in an election?
They are. I mean, but, nowadays, many people don't dare because they know that they'll end up with probably fake charges against them. It's remarkable. When they're not standing against him, they're not a problem. But the minute they stand against him, suddenly, they manufacture corruption charges. What a coincidence.
They are translating to one-man rule very soon.
It's almost that. It has become that. I mean, it's practically that now, really. I don't know about translating into that. It has already become that. Essentially, it's his thing,
All right, so we'll take a short break. After the break, the program continues. Remind that QCell is the official GSM partner of the Afcon. And we are looking forward to the Gambia-Guinea game on Friday. We'll be right back.
The art of juggling is a true spectacle of agility, coordination, and speed. A symbol of progression, precision, and mastery. .5G speed is like having the juggler in your pocket. With lightning-fast download and upload speeds, you'll easily be able to juggle even the busiest workdays. Whether you're a busy entrepreneur, a creative, or just someone who wants to stay connected. Juggle your tasks with ease with QCell 5G speed. The future is here. It's fast, reliable, and efficient. First brought to you by QCell. We innovate, others follow.
QCell mooy suñu boss QCell mooy suñu boss QCell mooy suñu boss. Soro. Go, ebe dawa full network suuta tili QCell. Ni lafta diamla wati jamala mune diata QCell. Most reliable network dumala keta wati QCell. Wo quality man nyon soto jam pona manke QCell. Hani be wulo ni farole kono walante be bako na jala fayola network ko se taria QCell suñu boss. Ño fi njeka indi 3G ñu delu taxi 4G plus and now we bring you 5G. 5G. First and only 5G provider. Itella follow adi doron nesa keno. Gambia bela nyon tawa fele QCell. Ko fazunta buka busi QCell. Itella molti milka kukutol nati Gambia. QCell meda lori la kilianol yele imanjina amanda wala itella ka quality dila dadi ma itelle silo wala wodol mume be keno ma. QCell sunny boss. QCell sunny boss. QCell sunny boss. QCell sunny boss. One next one of a bambandi QCell sunny boss. QCell most innovative QCell sunny boss.
The future is now with QCell's 5G network. Experience speeds like never before with our new 5G Rocket Fixed Internet plan. Get speeds from 10 Mbps to 100 Mbps. Your 5G-enabled devices. Walk into QCell headquarters to get one of our 5G routers and experience the true feeling of 5G. Only with QCell. QCell brings you the future. Tech, innovation, incredible speed. The future is now. For more information, call our customer care on 111. QCell, Sunyabus. We innovate, others follow. Terms and conditions apply.
QCell brings you the future with our ultimate bundles. Enjoy the best voice and data bundle plans in one package. Get unlimited data packages with flexible validity and enjoy what true internet feels like. Get 30 minutes of on-net
This is QTV This Morning. I am Ibrahim Abalde. And if you're just tuning in, we've already dealt with some of our stories. No, not actually stories. We did the African group.
Yes, we did Putin.
So April 14 torture survivors face Sonko in court. I mean, it's ongoing.
In Switzerland.
In Switzerland, and it's progressing.
Yes.
I mean, lawyers are going up and down, pushing and pulling and talking. So I don't know. I mean, what will be the outcome at the end of time?
It's going to be difficult to call because we always say to people, when you're reviewing a court case, don't be swayed by the evidence that somebody gives. Wait till they've been cross-examined. So when Sonko's lawyers have questioned the people who are on the witness stand, then you'll get a sense of where he's coming from in terms of his defense. He's refuted and pleaded not guilty to all the charges. But when you hear the evidence on its own, it's disgusting, it's shocking, it's quite upsetting, some of it. And were the court to find him guilty, then he can look forward to a very long sentence. If there's any comfort to him, prisons in those countries are they're like some of our hotels here, I have to be honest. You go to a prison there, it's like, you have all the luxuries. They're not like our prisons. But nonetheless, if your freedom, your liberty is curtailed, you can't go out, you can't leave, then it's no fun.
Even if they take you to Senegambia Hotel, or they take you to Q City guest
and they said you
room,
can't leave,
and they tell you this is the only confinement that you have, this is the only limitation that you have. At the end of the time, Mr. Ade, it's more than a prison.
It's more than a prison, and you had the guy in Denmark, Anders Breivik, who killed 60, 70 people. I mean, he's now trying to get parole because in their country they don't have life sentence, but he's been denied parole. And he's also objecting to the fact that somebody who has killed 70 people is saying that they're abusing my human rights by putting me in solitary confinement. But that's where he is at the moment, and the court case is on at the moment. But if we go back to the Sonko one, yes, people are giving evidence. And so we've heard Binta Jata, who is a multiple rape victim, who alleges multiple rapes by Sonko. She gave evidence last week. And we heard others who had been detained whilst he was, he had several roles. He was Interior Minister, he was Inspector General of Police at one time. And those people are giving evidence. But as I say, I think the time to make the judgment will be when we've heard the evidence and the cross-examination. And his lawyer, for those, a guy called Philippe Curat, C-U-R-R-A-T. Philippe Curat has his own YouTube channel, and he's been posting about the case, which is very unusual.
Well, that's
very unusual.
That's the lawyer himself posting.
The lawyer himself. The lawyer himself. He posts videos almost every day. So I follow the
So what
channel.
does he post? Videos of himself or the...
Of himself talking.
Of himself talking.
And about talking about the evidence against his client, which he says is fabricated. He claims also that they were not given time to study some of the evidence before the case, which I don't think is probably true, because this guy has been detained for almost 3 years, even before the court case proceeded. So they've had ample time, I think, to study the evidence against him. And some of the evidence against him, of course, was what was related at the TRRC. So all he had to do was study the transcripts of those, and he would have got some of the allegations against his client. So I'm not sure that particular argument is very believable. Yeah.
Well, there are a lot of things happening, but let's see what will happen to the outcome. I mean, what's going to be the outcome of that case?
People are watching. Universal jurisdiction is the law that's being used to try him, which means that even if the crime was not committed in Switzerland, was committed because he was in Switzerland thinking he was safe. But universal jurisdiction is now being used for the second time. First time was a Liberian who was tried and found guilty. And now Sonko is facing a trial under that legal concept. And if he's found guilty, he will face a very long 25, 30-year sentence, probably.
Imagine putting that on someone's life, 25 years. I mean,
or they can just say life.
That's life in jail.
Yeah.
The National Human Rights Commission to focus on fighting corruption in 2024.
Yeah, it's an unusual one for the National Human Rights Commission, but corruption is everywhere. And it's not just in the obvious places. You go for your ID card and the guy says, if you give me a bit extra, you can get it today rather than next week. Or if the policeman stops you and said, your lights are not working, and you give that policeman or policewoman $500, that's corruption as well. It's in many forms. It's in many forms. There's those kind of big, and we look at something like the Commission of Inquiry, which is on currently, and some of what we've heard about people, our taxes going into their private bank accounts when they should. That's another form of corruption. So it's everywhere. So I'm quite intrigued as to what the National Human Rights Commission thinks it can do or should do in its focus on corruption, because corruption holds back countries from development and progress, and it's something that really should be stamped out, but it's not easy, because sometimes it's so entrenched.
Well, I think, violating human rights, when corruption is rampant, you would be violating people's human rights. Corruption can block a lot of things that you're supposed to get. Gajaga is on the line.
Oh,
he's
wonderful.
currently in Ivory Coast.
Yes.
Attending the Afcon, of course.
Yes.
Sending us some stories and talking to us. And we have Mumuru Gajaga on the line. Mumuru Gajaga, how are you?
Yes.
Good morning, Gajaga.
Very well, thank you, Ibrahima Balde. Greetings from Yamoussoukro in Cote d'Ivoire.
Gajaga, they're going to kick you out of that place. It's Yamoussoukro, not Koro. Yamoussoukro.
So, can you tell us, Gajaga, what is happening at the moment?
Well, as far as the Afcon is concerned...
Yes? We can't hear you.
Yes, I think he's a bit freezing.
Has it
there.
frozen? Oh,
Yes,
dear.
I'm seeing.
I wonder if it's the same people who are responsible as the ones who ended up with shutting down the program globally.
Well, I mean that was a nightmare.
That was a nightmare. The British newspapers were furious about it because they were watching. Many of them were getting feeds, Sky Sports.
And
beIN
that's
Sports, Super
worldwide,
Sports.
you know.
It was worldwide.
I was in Brikama when that happened.
Yeah, and people were thinking, oh no, this is to do with, local conditions. And it wasn't. It was worldwide. And if you read the British newspapers the next day, they were absolutely furious.
And later they came on and it was only one camera that they were using. One angle, you understand? So when the ball gets to the other bar, you cannot get to see what's happening there.
Yes, I mean, and for us, we were upset because of all the games for it to happen, it happened between, well, it depends whether, if you read DW, it was Senegal against Zambia, but we know it was Senegal against Gambia.
Momodu Gajaga is back.
Gajaga, welcome
Hello,
back.
Gajaga.
Yes, hello, I'm still here waiting for you.
So it's like you encountering a little difficult there to connect.
Yes, internet has been a challenge since we arrived here. Even the MTN that people boast about that they have the best internet speed. I have an NTN network in my phone, and I'm trying to use it. It shows 4G plus, and then I can't do anything with it.
Yeah, so quickly, Momodu Gajaga, before the network disappoints us again, let's talk about the preparation for our boys. I mean, we are looking forward to a game on Friday. So, I mean, how did you say the preparation?
Well, I think they are down by the defeat against Senegal. It definitely showed. In a football game in small margins, Senegal with their experience and everything that they had. So now they want to bounce back. We spoke to the players yesterday at the training ground, and they seem to be in an upbeat mood. They now throw away the defeat against Senegal and fully focused on the game against Guinea, at least to bounce back, to at least to remain in the competition, because if they are to remain in the competition, they would definitely have to get a good result against Guinea on Friday.
All right. I mean, a lot of things have been happening. I know the game against Senegal, like you said, it's unfortunate, but that's game for you. At the same time, we must win and lose. But at some point, to Momodu Gajaga, what did you make of this game? Senegal, it's more experience when it comes to, I mean, these tournaments. I mean, we started going to Afcon just last year. So were you able to engage the officials?
Yes, most definitely. Immediately after the game, there were reactions from the players. There were reactions also from the coach, the Gambia coach. There were reactions from the Senegalese camp. Yeah, like I said, yes, Senegal, the experience and also the quality. Sure. If you look at their team, the team that started against the Gambia, some of them who were on the bench, you can put up another 11 also, which is going to fight for a competition. So they have lots of quality in their side. So when it comes to the reactions bit of it, Coach Aliou Cisse said, yes, they had a resounding victory, but it wasn't an easy game for them as normally. The heat also counted a lot. These players just recently, before the Afcon, were playing for their European clubs. Maybe they spent 2 weeks to train and, in the training camp. So for Tom Sanfield, he said, yes, they've lost the battle. It wasn't a good result for them. They would have loved to give a respectable performance against their neighbors because this is a derby game. There is a lot at stake. But at the end of the day, he accepted that they lost because they played against a more experienced Senegalese side that has a lot of quality. But he thinks he loses the battle, but not the war. He will bounce back. For the players, they are dejected and disappointed. We heard from Ali Sow, we heard from Yankuba Minte.
Okay, I think that's the reception again. Yeah.
I think it's still there. Are you there? No.
All right, so let's continue. I mean, it's to focus on the game against Guinea for me. You understand?
And the games ahead.
Yes, I mean, you don't have to die along. I mean, Senegal already defeated us, so you don't have to die. I mean, nothing happened. I mean, you're gonna move again.
You have to
be up the game.
And what we've seen, and we said this, years ago in 1970, some Mexican journalists coined the phrase "Grupa de la Muerte," group of death. And before a ball was kicked, we said this was like a group of death, a really tough group. And so it has proved to be. We lost to Senegal, and we saw Guinea, how tough they were against Cameroon. Cameroon are one of the fancy sides to go far in this competition. And so it's going to be tough. And the next opponent is Guinea, that's Guinea-Conakry. And that's not going to be easy because we saw them and they put on a really good display. And they could have won against Cameroon.
Well, my advice to the Gambian team is, I mean, it's not the Guinea that they played against last year.
No, they've seen, like I said, I mean, they just saw them
it's
against
a total
Cameroon,
different
so they
one.
know it's a different thing.
I mean, Gajaga is on the line again. Gajaga, we apologize for that. I think that's the reception, not from our end, but from your end.
Quite. They need to have QCell there, I think.
Yes, Gajaga.
We can see you, but we can't quite hear you, Mr. Gajaga. I was going to ask where.
Yeah, so we apologize for that again. I said the network is from your end, not from our end. We are using QCell 5G here.
Yes, Mr. Balde.
Gaj, if I can ask a question. You said you saw them in training yesterday. Are there any niggles, any injuries, or as far as you can see?
Hearing from you, Mr. Balde, but basically,
okay,
that's
I don't think you can hear me.
What's the latest here in Cote d'Ivoire, where the Gambian team yesterday had their recovery session. The players, the coaches, they're looking for ways to get at least a good result against Guinea on Friday, where they will be playing their second game at the same stadium, at the Charles Konambani Stadium.
Well, thank you very much, Mamadou Gajaga, for that update.
Yes. Thank you. And wish the boys all the best.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so Mr. Adi, like I was saying.
I posted on Twitter yesterday, I said, human beings, we have the intelligence to send somebody to the moon, but we still can't do radio and TV link-ups on telephone. I mean, I always find it astonishing with the way technology has advanced that globally, I'm not just talking about here in the Gambia. You see it on BBC, you see it on CNN. They're talking to somebody, can you hear me, can you hear me? It's like, come on, this is technology that is supposedly advanced to unbelievable levels. Well, yes, I mean, going back to the games and to the Afcon itself, a tough game against Guinea it's likely to be, because they would have felt emboldened by the fact that they played so well against Cameroon.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There are things, I mean, that our players need to be careful. I mean, Guinea is coming for revenge. You understand? And at the same time,
football's not like that.
Our players shouldn't take it lightly. It's not the same Guinea they played last year.
Yeah.
Because I've watched their ball and I've seen what they
Nobody in the Gambian team is thinking along those lines. Oh, this is the Guinea that we beat the last time. They saw how they played this time against Cameroon. So they're not thinking, oh, that's the Guinea we played last time.
It's a different
and they're not thinking, and Guinea for them, they want 3 points. It's not revenge or anything.
Straight.
They want 3 points. Those are for fans, those kind of things about revenge and so on. Any coach who is worth his salt, he's not going to go out there and get revenge. Revenge for what? You want to win and you want to proceed in the competition. That's all you care about. Revenge is what?
But I am good that the Gambia is focusing more on the game, on the upcoming game,
They have to.
than just clinging on to
what
the
has happened
past.
has happened.
Yes, what has happened has happened.
Yeah.
Akuna Matata.
And you can't, they say don't cry over spilled milk. What you can do is, what are the lessons that we have to learn from that? And the one lesson, if there's only one lesson we'll have to learn from it, keep 11 men on the pitch. Don't get sent off for something stupid. That is like the first lesson. And if we haven't learned that lesson, then we don't even deserve to be in the competition.
Absolutely.
Keep your head. Don't jump into rash tackles. Don't get booked for silly stuff. And just keep focused. Really, that's the one lesson. Keep
Thank you,
11 men on
Mr.
the pitch.
We'll take a short break. After the break, then we will take a look at the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Welfare in partnership with the Office of the High Commission for Human Rights, West Africa Regional Office, will officially launch the second phase of the project to support the protection of children victims of human rights violation. So we'll be right back. After the break, we go straight to that.
QCell brings you the future with our ultimate bundles. Enjoy the best voice and data bundle plans in one package. Get unlimited data packages with flexible validity and enjoy what true internet feels like. Get 30 minutes of on-net and off-net calls with 5 gigabytes of data for just $350. Or get bigger bundle packages from 10 gigabytes to 20 gigabytes with over 100 on-net and off-net voice calls and enjoy the fastest internet speed in the Gambia. You can also buy 1-day, 3-day or even 7-day packages and enjoy unlimited data bundles with uncapped speeds. Just dial *343# today and experience the limitless capabilities of the QCell network. *343# should be your favorite code to dial now. For more information, call our customer care on 111. QCell, we innovate, others follow.
Step into the Espas Motors showroom for your luxurious name brand vehicle. Located along the Bertil Harding Highway, Espas Motors is the Gambia's authorized dealer for Chery, Kia, Ford, and now we bring you the new Peugeot model 3008 SUV. 18-inch alloy wheels, 216 inches high ground clearance, keyless entry system, start and stop button, rear parking assistance system, reverse camera, adaptive cruise control with speed limit, LED daytime running lights, front and side airbags, 8-inch HD touchscreen. Not to forget our exquisite Peugeot Landtrek double cabin pickup with 2.1-liter diesel engine, 6-speed manual transmission 4x4, hill descent control, LED daytime running lights. Espas Motors, the authorized dealer for Peugeot. Visit us today or call us on 35-2222 or 353-4444.
Welcome back. You are watching QTV this morning, and now we move to the other segment of the program. Like I said before the break, the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Welfare, in partnership with the Office of the High Commission for Human Rights, West Africa Regional Office, will officially launch the second phase of the project to support the protection of children victims of human rights violation. And we have Mr. Robert Kochani in the studios with us. You're welcome, sir. He's the representative for the West Africa Regional Office in Dakar. You are welcome on QTV this morning. Please tell us what you are up to at the moment.
Or can you start by giving us some context? We said this is the second phase.
Exactly.
What was the first phase? If we can start there, please.
So, yes.
Yes.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. This is the regional office for West Africa of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights. We're based in Dakar, but we cover the entire sub-region. And more specifically about the project that has brought me here, PAPEV, it's a French acronym, and you said the right translation in English. The background is as such. If you got a chance to visit Dakar, you will see that there are children begging in the street at times where they're supposed to be in schools or at least in vocational training. So from that reality that we have seen on the ground, taking into account that children's rights involve also ensuring that at least they have the right to education. We started a program with the government of Senegal to see how to get these kids to back to school. And we realized that these kids were not only children from Senegal. Some of them came from the Gambia, from Guinea-Bissau, from Guinea-Conakry, from Mali. So we're like, if we are to have a sustainable project, it shouldn't be focusing only on Senegal, but also on the neighboring countries. So as such, we have expanded, we have built up a project which was funded by Italy to help governments and non-government actors because there are some shelters that are managed by government, like the one in Bakote here is for government, but there are other shelters that are managed by private actors. So we tried to liaise with government in the sub-region and see how we can contribute to the efforts of ensuring that children do have access to education or vocational training instead of simply begging in the streets, because begging cannot be considered as a job. So the first project was implemented between 2019 and 2022, whereby we supported government to ensure that children are at times physically removed from the streets and taken back to school or reunited with their families or taken to vocational training or hosted in some shelters. So contrary to what the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights generally does, we were obliged to procure some non-food items and at times some food items for these children. Actually, our mandate as the UN Human Rights Office is to train, to do advocacy, and to disseminate information and communication on human rights, not to buy bedding, bed sheets, or mosquito nets, or generators for electricity, or solar panel, or television, which we had to buy in the framework of that project to ensure that children that are in a shelter at least can watch cartoons, can read books, etc., etc.
True.
Yeah. So in the first phase, we also managed to send some kids back to the original countries, of course, in strict coordination with the relevant governments, and also in full respect of the rules, international rules that govern such repatriations.
True.
But you see, these are hundreds of thousands of kids, so it's not so easy. Yes. That's what led to a second phase, because the first phase wasn't enough. Right. And as I'm speaking, if you go back to Dakar, if you go to Dakar, you still
I wanted to ask you,
Mr.
Kochane, I mean, since the launch of the first phase, I mean, how far have you gone? What are the successes that are registered when you launched the first phase?
This is a very delicate, complex, and difficult situation. I was saying that if you go to Dakar today, you still see children in the streets. Maybe not as many as they were before, but they're still there. Why should they be there when schools are open? So one of the success stories was that some of the kids have been reunited with their families. Unfortunately, I don't have figures to communicate to you, but many have been reunited with their families. Many have been sent back to school. Some have been sent to vocational training. And I remember vividly that last year when I was in Conakry to visit one of the, to officiate a donation, I happened to visit one of the kids that we picked from the streets of Dakar, and he was doing a vocational training, tapestry, those who make this type of furniture in Conakry. So it reminded me of a saying of that man who was picking some animals by the seaside, throwing them back to the sea, and somebody told him, please, there are so many of them that you cannot pick all of them and send them back to the sea. And he said, at least it will make a difference for those I managed to send back to the sea so that they can swim. So it's a huge battle, and it's very complex because there are some religious complications and dimensions that are linked to it, because those kids that collect money and food in the street,
many of them are sent by daras.
Exactly, they send it back to somewhere. So some people are making a living out of that, exploiting the kids. So you have to be tactful and to also mind the reality and sociological realities. So that's why it's a job that is taking a bit of time.
Well, like you mentioned it, right? I think that's a point there. I mean, it's a very complex issue to, remove all these things. I mean,
physically.
To take these kids out of the street. I mean, I think it's difficult because the concept that people have, at some point, even some of them, it's their parents that will push them to go to these daras. You know, if you go around the North Bank region or the LRR here in the Gambia, you have a lot of them there. You know, at some point you wonder, what are these kids doing here? You know, you feel bad sometimes. Your kids are going to school and these kids are in the street. So we have a lot of them. So who are involved, like your partners?
Yes, first of all, this is a responsibility that falls within the ambit of the government. So in government, as either Minister of Gender or Minister of Family Affairs or Minister of Children Affairs, depending on the country. Here in Gambia is the Minister of Gender. And of course, the UN is also there. You know, UNICEF has a primary mandate to work for the right of children. So we are partnering with UNICEF and other UN agencies to do this. Civil society organizations also play a very important role. The National Commission for Human Rights, the police. So all these people are represented in what we call steering committee, which is chaired by the Minister of Gender. And in each country, we establish steering committees that are there to also guide and provide some guidance on how we implement the project, because the realities are not the same country by country, so we have to be country specific. So as we launch this project, the second phase tomorrow, the Minister of Gender will have a pivotal role to play, because we are not even a resident agency. I do this and I go back to Senegal. I come back again in a few months' time. But they are here on the ground, and they are the ones who are going to help us do the physical and the actual implementation of the project. So of course, the media also play an important role.
Of course. And now you mentioned the second phase, because obviously the first phase was not enough.
Indeed.
So what are some of the elements of this second phase that we can look forward to?
The second phase, of course, will build on this, on what we have achieved during the first phase. But this time we are focusing on children, girl children in particular, and children with vulnerabilities such as disabilities, for example, to ensure that they leave no one behind, which is the overarching principle of the SDGs, is also reflected through this project. So basically, we are focusing on girl children, we are focusing on children with disabilities during the second project.
Not just in the Gambia, but in many parts of Africa, we are notorious for passing laws and making legislation at law in certain things. And you've touched on it yourself, you know. By rights, these children should be in schools.
Definitely.
What for you at the end of the second phase would count as success in terms of the implementation of some of the laws that are already existing about, you know, getting children off the streets and so on? What would count as success in terms of, you know, you must have sort of short, medium and long-term goals and aims, but what would be success look like?
Yes, one of the goals of this project is also to assist government living up to their obligations when it comes to international and regional human rights treaties. And of course, internationally, we have the Convention on the Right of the Child. At the African Union level, we have the African Charter on the Right and Welfare of the Child. So reporting to these treaty bodies is also an obligation for the states that have ratified the convention, including the Gambia. So we are helping the states to be up to date with the reporting obligations. If you are to report to a treaty body, at least you make sure you don't go and say you haven't done anything.
Yeah, quite.
So it's when it comes to children's rights, ensuring that, I mean, being able to demonstrate that we are making an effort to remove kids from the street so that they can go to school is something that encourages a government to stretch further in the job of ensuring that children's rights are respected. So in Conakry, at the end of this month, we are having a regional training for all the countries that are involved in the project to build the capacity on how to report under the CRC and under the African Charter on the Right and Welfare of the Child. But one of the key objectives that we are aiming at is to be able to build on the success of the first phase and be able to demonstrate that thanks to this project, so many children were removed from the streets and did not come back. Meaning they were sent back to their families, back to schools, to vocational training, and we reduced the number of children that are in the streets while sensitizing the community and the government to ensure that those who are removed from the streets are not replaced by new ones. Which will touch to what you mentioned earlier on. Some particular interests will have to be addressed because these children are a huge source of income to some hidden, parties which are at times behind the corridors, and every evening they collect the money, and so it's like somebody who is begging.
Well, as Ibrahim Balde said, I mean, I live along Coastal Road, and if you go to where the flyover is now and the beginning of Coastal Road Market, as I'm turning, the children who approach me with a tray of bananas or oranges, they should be in school.
Indeed.
And yet it's at a time when the schools are open. Those children must have been sent there by their parents, one would imagine. So it is a difficult one.
True.
We realize.
And the reality is that we're dealing with a vulnerable category. These are children. It's not just any beggar. These are children.
Yeah.
If you teach them to beg, and only to beg, you don't educate them, you don't train them, what are they going to be when they're adults? Are they going to be professional beggars? Yeah. How are they going to help building the future of the Gambia if they are only begging?
It can, I mean, result to another thing, because at the end of the time, if you've grown to a level, you cannot keep begging. At some point, you'll go stealing.
Exactly. Join gangsters, and you know that's not good. So it's important that we are able to sensitize those who send them to the street, also to sensitize families, also African values, as that children are cherished.
Sure.
But I visited the Bakote shelter yesterday. There were kids that are abandoned, and if nobody picks them, they will die. So sensitization of the community is also important.
Sure.
How come that we Africans, who are known to cherish families, to cherish children in a family is considered as a God, a gift from God, a blessing.
Yeah.
So how come we are now able to throw out kids in the street as like garbage, and we don't care about them?
Sure.
So sensitization at the community level is also important. And this is part of the effort we are putting, the emphasis we are putting during this second phase, to reach out to the community, to sensitize them, so that we try to tarnish the problem from the source also. That's a very long journey.
It's a long journey. And you mentioned regional training on reporting.
True.
And I was going to come to that, because a lot of the reason why a lot of these laudable initiatives fail is because the monitoring is not there.
Consistency.
So you give money to governments or NGOs or whatever and say, do this. Yeah, and so nobody monitors what they do.
I mean, it's already time. Thank you very much, Mr. Robert Kuchari, for coming on the program.
My
you know, I'm even not aware. It's time already. Yeah, so
time has flown by.
Yes, thank you. We'll take a short break. We'll be back.
You're most welcome.